began my journey into the world of fragrances not a long time ago, but I fell in love immediately. That was enough to make me want to explore more, to test more, to experiment more, and look at this world differently, to see beyond the essence inside the bottle, to seek stories, to seek messages, in other words, to seek the art within perfume. I came to the conclusion that every perfume is born from science, through chemistry, but lives through art. And it lives if it has a message to convey, a story to tell, things that can press beyond your senses and make room in the heart and mind of the person who chooses it. Part of the credit for this change in perspective goes to the fragrance I'm about to discuss. A perfume that, for a modest price, says a lot. It tells a story, presents the vision of a perfumer and a fashion creator, reflects an era, and wraps you in that art for a very good amount of time. For that reason, I consider this perfume the most suitable choice for the first video on this channel, Versace The Dreamer. It is not only a fragrance with a wonderful blend of notes, which I will present in several points, but one that checks all the boxes of what a perfume should be, even though it was not created by a niche house, which makes it even more unique. It is a fragrance that has had fans for decades already, and even fans who have not been born yet.
The last bow of an artist.
Gianni Versace, born in 1946, made an immense contribution to fashion through the house that would bear his name, founded in 1978, Versace. Through this fashion house, Gianni Versace presented his revolutionary opulent style with rock and roll influences and Baroque glamour. The Medusa head would become one of the most recognizable symbols in international fashion, not only in his clothing creations but beyond that. What interests us here, and what this video is about, is Versace's perfumes, which Gianni described as the final touch that completes elegance, an invisible extra that completes one's personality. Without perfume, something is missing. This vision led him to become directly involved in the creation of the fragrances. As a result, each perfume made by Versace House carried the direct imprint of Gianni Versace's idea. Even at the beginning, when they were made in France by Yves Saint Laurent, he closely supervised every stage of production, and from 1988 onward he became even more involved, buying back production rights and moving production to Italy.
Hello, welcome back. These are pictures from Miami.
However, this fashion star named Gianni Versace was extinguished too soon. In 1997, tragically killed by a man who reportedly sought only notoriety, much like the figure from ancient Greece who chose to burn down the temple of Artemis at Ephesus, one of the 7 wonders of the world. For that reason, I choose not to mention Gianni Versace's killer name. I believe this should be the punishment for that people with such desires. Oblivion. Still, he did not leave us without one final bow on the perfumery stage, Versace The Dreamer. Although it was created by perfumer Jean-Pierre Berthois, it is considered the last fragrance to which Gianni Versace directly contributed. Initially launched in 1996, it is also considered his last dream.
The notes of the two dreamers and their performance.
Very important note. Earlier I said the fragrance was launched in 1996, but if you search for it on Fragrantica, it appears a launch date of 2010. That is not entirely wrong, at least not completely. The perfume was initially launched in 1996, and you can find it on Fragrantica as Versace The Dreamer Original Edition, with completely different notes and much better performance than its 2010 version. How could this happen? Any older perfume tends to be reformulated over time. Notes can have weaker production years, just as grapes can have better or worse years for certain wines. Lavender in perfumery can be the same, raw material suppliers can change, the price of certain ingredients can rise, and the manufacturer may choose to limit the quantity, replace or remove a note. Sometimes international fragrance associations also limits or bans ingredients that can use allergies or health issues. But issues can be much bigger than that. Today, I will talk about a version produced by Euroitalia, mentioning its ancestor produced by Chiver only because I have not yet had the chance to smell it, even though it's one of my dreams. From all the online opinions I have heard about the older version, I could only say this: whatever the new Versace Dreamer does, its ancestor does better. The newer version, for example, it's composed of notes such as the top notes juniper, tarragon, and artemisia. Heart notes are iris, lily, and flax, and base notes are amber. And in my opinion, the most important ingredient, not only among the notes and the most prominent when you first smell it, but one that personally completes the entire picture the dreamer paints in my mind, it's tobacco flower. And I will return to this later. The old dreamer has as the top notes lavender, sage, and mandarin orange. The heart notes are tobacco, rose, carnation, and geranium, and the base notes are tonka bean, fir, vetiver, and cedarwood. The notes are totally different between the two perfumes. I can therefore understand the people who says that the pre-reformulation version is much stronger. It does not have tobacco flower. It has tobacco, which can clearly carry a fragrance, plus vetiver and tonka bean, elements that can create a much darker version. It also has rose, which can sweeten the fragrance much more. But again, these are only my theories. I am waiting to get my hands on such a marvel and then return with a video about it. Coming back to the perfume I have actually enjoyed, I cannot imagine another fragrance that could materialize a dream better, even compared with the old version. I cannot imagine how you could compose a fragrance from notes that better reflects the peace, calm, and creativity of a dream, while still remaining masculine. Through amber notes combined with the green notes at the top of the olfactory pyramid. All these notes from a wonderful floral perfume, but again still masculine, because too many people can have the false impression that a floral perfume is automatically feminine. And an important note here, I do not believe a perfume can be exclusively feminine or masculine. As long as you feel that it represents you, you can wear it confidently. The same reason niche houses do not list their fragrances as masculine or feminine. So, I would say this fragrance leans more toward the masculine side, a classy floral perfume that makes it wearable all year round for almost any occasion. I say almost any occasion because I would not see it worn with an overly casual outfit. It is a fragrance that, just as Gianni Versace tried to express to all his works, communicates elegance, though I would not completely exclude that possibility either. I do, however, completely exclude wearing it in a club, because it is absolutely not a loud fragrance. Although it does not perform poorly, it is what they call a clean perfume. Online, I have heard people say they wear this fragrance in almost any circumstance, even as a church fragrance. And another unusual aspect is that it suits a smoker very well. I feel its scent blends extremely well with cigarette smoke and even highlights its positive facets. So while these things make Versace The Dreamer an extremely versatile fragrance that would hardly bother anyone, with performance that is more than decent on my skin, it lasts about 4 to 6 hours with moderate to good sillage in the first hour. So for a low price, this perfume can dress you, at least for a while and with decent projection, in clean, elegant aromas, and in an important piece of the history of one of the world's greatest fashion houses.
Unboxing. What does Versace The Dreamer paint?
The part that truly made me fall in love with perfumery is that every perfume not only speaks to you, but can also draw images to you. Imagery, fantastical images, but most importantly, images from your own past, which you can relive every time you wear the fragrances and never forget. The perfume discussed today is a very good example. When I talked about the notes, I mentioned the most important flower among them. It is the flower you feel most strongly in the entire olfactory pyramid, but it also expressed the perfume's idea best. Why? The tobacco flower is a flower that, besides its wonderful smell, is known for blooming and smelling best only at night on warm summer evenings. That is why in my native language it is called Queen of the Night. And this made me associate the fragrance with an image that has remained very close to my heart. In the countryside, near my grandparents' house, right under the window, there is a large dense bush of tobacco flowers, or like I said, Queen of the Night. Every summer evening, the whole yard fills with the superb scent of this flower. My grandfather used to tell me how on some summer evenings he would fall asleep on a small bench in front of the house, very close to the tobacco flower bush, just to feel their scent. And I can no longer smell this perfume without having that image directly associated with it. And I do not think there is another image that could describe it better. Better than that of a mature, even elderly man, enjoying one of life's small details which in the right context, such as warm summer evenings, can feel like a true treasure, just as an apparently simple and inexpensive perfume can cover so much when worn by the right person in the right context. Less personal images this fragrance can represent and that came to my mind are those of a man very confident in his masculinity, unbothered by smelling like flowers. Like a night of flowers, combining courage with elegance, and for those who watched Game of Thrones, the image of Loras Tyrell is probably the most representative. In conclusion, Versace The Dreamer is a fragrance that fulfills all the criteria a perfume should meet. It represents the vision of a great fashion creator, a piece of history, it is affordable, has decent performance, is extremely versatile, and can stay in your mind accompanied by many memories or images that reflect experiences from your own life. And that is what makes a perfume truly good. It is therefore the perfect fragrances to start a collection or to complete one that lacks such a piece. In my opinion, it is almost impossible to say you do not need a fragrance like this, whether for yourself or as a gift. Even so, I would not necessarily recommend gifting it to someone who is not particularly passionate about perfumes, because you will not have time to present its true strengths. And for an inexperienced person, it might seem ordinary. With all that said, no matter how good a fragrance is, no matter how beautiful it describes things, and no matter how inexpensive it is, I still recommend testing it first because this hobby sits on the edge of consumerism.